Hello and welcome. Today we're going to dive into Canadian government and Bill C-11. Okay, well, this is a link that came from Senator Leo Housakos. This is in relation to Bill C-11 and how they're straight up saying it's going to push an algorithmic change.
So they could tell the different companies like YouTube to manipulate the algorithm. They don't do it themselves, but they could request that it be done, correct?
No. The bill says the commission is not going to be able to make orders to change algorithms. I mean, it says so.
But the only way you could make a change to discover an artist is to change the algorithm. How else are you going to make an artist discoverable?
There are many other ways, and that is the idea, is that the platforms will come up with other ways because the commission cannot change the algorithm.
Okay, so right now the fight with C-11 is in the Senate. It's a bill that's being pushed forward, and we have us Canadians a lot of us are quite worried at what this will mean for user-generated content, aka this video that you guys are watching right now. So there's talk in here that the one person I believe represents some part of the CRTC or some part of the pro side of the bill, and they're saying this bill they're putting through will not manipulate the algorithm. There is no other way to change this if you want to push up certain channels that are Canadian. There is the idea with this bill right now to push forward 30% minimum standards of Canadian content for Canadians to view. And that in itself is very troublesome because right now we're on the world stage. That will shrink us down to Canadians, is what it will happen. You will have many people pull out of the YouTube in general because they're not going to deal with Canadians. They just won't do it. This is all to manipulate the algorithm. And also on top of that, with this bill, they're going to manipulate the who gets seen more as a Canadian based on your minority status, based on your sexual preference, based on certain things that just is discriminatory in itself. The bill in itself is a very bad scenario.
Oh, no, it's okay. So why can't they just word it in a way so that assures everyone that it will not happen?
I think we're going to have to revisit the issue of user-generated content one more time. I know that you and the minister and other officials insist that you're not regulating user-generated content, but I think it's a bit parsing of the words. You will regulate the platforms, and then the platforms will impose your rulings and directives. As you said, you won't manipulate the algorithms. You will make the platforms do it. That is regulation by another name or by a name, that you're regulating either directly and explicitly or indirectly, but you are regulating content.
Straight through and through. They're pushing this bill through and lying through their teeth, saying they're not going to manipulate the algorithm. They're not going to do anything to the algorithm. That's for Google and for the Facebooks and for the Twitters of the world to do that.
You're right. Thank you, Senator. It's a pleasure to see you.
Overreach and oversight, stepping into the fray and telling the companies what can and cannot be seen. That is telling these companies to say, listen, you need to change your algorithm so this Canadian gets seen more and that one doesn't. Just because this guy can speak French and this guy doesn't, the guy that speaks French will get pushed more on the platform.
My concern is consistent with that of the witnesses, and despite some of my colleagues that continue to insist that there will be no algorithm manipulation, there's a couple of red flags for me. Number one, we've had the CRTC chair before this very committee state clearly, publicly, that this bill gives him the authority to drive algorithms and force platforms to manipulate algorithms to bring out a certain outcome. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, the sponsor of this bill, my colleague, Senator Dawson, in his speech in the chamber, said that it does have that capacity. At the end of the day, if we're having this debate, it's a debate about protecting Canadian culture from streamers.
The government will issue a policy direction to the CRTC to indicate our priorities when it comes to putting in place the new regulatory framework. The policy direction has two primary goals. First, it will focus on the importance of consultation and special consideration of the needs of equity-seeking groups. Second, the direction will make clear the areas where regulation is needed, as well as the areas where it should be exercised. Let me emphasize, we are putting in place a regulatory process like in other sectors. That means there will be publication of the proposed policy direction, followed by public consultation, and then final policy direction. This would be a fully collaborative process with online platforms, traditional media and creators, as well as the general public.
Okay, well, that is a little tidbit of what I've been watching with Bill C-11. I've been watching a lot of people talk about this. I've been watching how it unfolds in the Senate committee that is going forward right now. And there's been a lot of back and forth. There was a witness tampering situation that happened where some government officials actually were trying to intimidate some of the witnesses coming forward that were for the content creator side. With the Bill C-11, this has been passed in the House of Commons. The Senate has been looking at this for the last couple months. They've been trying to get an idea on what this is going to do. And the Senate is supposed to be that second look at these bills, especially one so this isn't even that controversial, but one that can change the entire landscape of the platforms that I make content on and many others. There is several people that I do watch, and it comes down to you got a question here. If you're doing a review on a video game that is not Canadian made, say the video game is made in the USA, your content then is not considered Canadian content. It's not Canadian enough. And that is one of the biggest things that I see why this bill is just going to fall flat on its face. Why this bill can't be more than the piece of paper that it's written on, because it won't have any teeth. You're not going to be able to push forward. What this is going to do is change the landscape of YouTube and make it more like a cable company. It's going to make YouTube more like television cable, where the big names in media now get priority over the little guy. They get priority over myself. They get priority over the little guy. And it's going to push the algorithm where us Canadians will be shown things that we don't care about. We don't want to necessarily see this. If I want to see stuff on Skyrim, if I want to see stuff on Magic the Gathering, I'm going to seek out that. But what this is going to do is push that content up in the Canadian algorithm. Maybe I'll see Canadian Magic the Gathering contenters first, or at the same time, because Magic the Gathering is not a Canadian product, it won't even put it into the algorithm that way. It's going to show me a Canadian, not necessarily talking about Magic the Gathering, but because the Canadians that are talking about Magic the Gathering won't be recognized as Canadian content because the content they're talking about is not Canadian. Or it means it will disregard the idea that I want to see stuff on Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is a very niche topic, and that's why why I've moved away from a lot of covering it, why we still talk about it every once in a while in live streams, why I still cover that type of thing every once in a while, because that's where I started my content. That's where I got into the natural flow of things, and now I've pivoted away from that. I more want to just make general gaming content. That's what I wanted to do, and that's why I'm where I'm at. Not saying I won't ever cover Magic the Gathering content again, but now down the line, I have a much broader range of what I get to cover. It created this little bit of a pivot away from that, I think, has helped me organically grow in such a way that I can reach a lot of a bigger audience. And hey, if you guys like this sort of thing, I know this isn't my usual type of topic, but it is a very important topic on what we're dealing here in Canada. If you want to see more of this, let me know down below. If you want to see me dive into more of these bills that are being pushed, because there's also Bill C-18 that's now going through, and Facebook has now confirmed if it goes through the way it is written right now, they're going to pull out of Canada completely and block us Canadians from seeing news sites. So that in itself is a very worrisome event. But with C-11, there's also talk that they want Google, YouTube, all these bigger platforms to pay into the pot. And there's this pot of gold that the Canadian government siphons out from all the cable companies in order to even work here, in order to do stuff here. And that gold gets piled in. And then those same Canadian companies, or the television companies at this case, pull out financing out of there and make a Canadian-driven content. They make something that has been pushed by the Canadian government that adheres to the standards that they push forward, that is more in the eyes of what the Canadian government wants to push and then be shown to viewers out there. This is not a natural, organic way to create content or create things that are real. It creates a narrative, it creates propaganda, it creates something that's the strong arm of the Canadian government, and that is the root of this problem. That is why Bill C-11 is really bad news, because now it's just going to be, well, this guy does content that we like as the Canadian government, so we're going to tell Google and YouTube they have to push his content and not necessarily my content, because I'm speaking against Bill C-11. Anyway, guys, what do you guys think about this? There is a lot that I could dive into this. I could talk for hours on end with this. So I've been talking a little bit during the live streams. I'm open to questions on it because I have dove into a lot of the details of it. What do you guys think about it? If you want to, you can come join me on a live stream, either a Friday or Saturday night. Otherwise, leave your comment down below. Maybe subscribe, like the video, and I will see you all very soon next time. This is Proud Canadian Phoenix Cineshadow signing off here.